Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon. How you doing? Nice to meet you. I hope you're doing so very well. Today I have a vlog, and this vlog I'm going to try and see how many pages I can read in a 24-hour time span. So that means every time I read, I'm gonna have to press play on a timer. So the timer starts at 0, and once it hits 24 hours, not 25, I will calculate how much pages I've managed to read in 24 hours. I think this is an interesting experiment because I feel like with different genres of books, I read at different speeds. So I decided in this vlog I'm going to try and read 3 different genres. The first book I'm going to choose is Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. This is a thriller, and I'm going to read this for the first book, and then I'm going to read a romance and a fantasy, because I want to see if I read more or less pages dependent on genre. I also want to see, depending on genre, how many pages I could read per hour and how much pages overall I can read in 24 hours. So this is the book we're going to start with. This is Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier, and it says, 5 years ago, Gio's first love was revealed as a terrifying serial killer, but he escaped custody and went on the run. Now bodies have started turning up, killed in exactly the same way as before. The message is clear. He's making his way to her one murder at a time. So this is the book we're starting off with, and I've actually already started the timer. I started it last night before I went to sleep. So far I'm 3 hours into the timer, and I have figured out that this thriller that has pretty small text, I can average about 50 pages an hour with this thriller. So I will put on the screen how many pages I've actually achieved in each hour so far, and I can say I'm enjoying this. I will say, if you want to read this, look up all the trigger warnings, because I am 154 pages into this, and there's so many triggers. There's so many things. This is dark, and this goes deep, and I feel like if you want to read this, please protect your brain, protect yourself, and look up triggers. I am really enjoying this. Straight out of the gate, this actually surprised me, because and it's amazing when a thriller can surprise you straight away, because the synopsis really gives nothing away, and you go into the first 30 pages. I'm gonna say what the first 30 pages are about. If you do not want to know anything about this book, then you can skip. I will put chapters down below, but it's the first 30 pages. I'm not really spoiling anything. So Gio is actually called Georgina, and her boyfriend when she was 16 was 21, and which is a trigger in and of itself, right? And she is on trial because her boyfriend killed her best friend back when they were 16, but she was an accomplice to this, and that synopsis hints at nothing like this. So straight out of the gate, you're like, she's going to prison for 5 years because she was an accomplice to her now serial killer boyfriend killing her best friend. And I'm like, damn. And then she goes to prison, and there is an essay scene. Again, another trigger in the first 30 pages. And I'm just like, this book went in straight off the bat. It surprised me. I had no idea it was going to be this dark. I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the kind of weaving of the story. So there's certain parts, so you'll get Georgina's point of view, then you'll get Kaser, who is her childhood best friend, her best friend Angela that was murdered, and Kaser were a trio, and he is actually a cop now, so he's the one that arrested her. So you get his point of view as well, and it's very interesting because you not only get her in prison and her life back then when she met Calvin, the serial killer, and you also get weaved into that her friendship with Angela, who's now deceased, and her friendship with Kaser, who actually arrested her. It's very interestingly told, and it's keeping me on the edge of my seat. That's blinding sun. Jesus. I'm gonna tilt this way so I don't get it. So yeah, it's it's very interestingly told, and I'm interested to see where the story goes, because I feel like it's going to be one of those that are like really action packed towards the end, and I hope the action just pays off the way I want it to. So I will come back once I have more thoughts on this and like tell you how many pages I've read, what hour I'm at. I'm hoping to kind of like check in every like 6 hours, because I feel like that seems like a reasonable amount of time. I can read a reasonable amount, have a reasonable amount of thoughts, and it means that I'll have like 4 updates with each book. But if I feel like I need to update on a book, I will just come in and tell you. But until then, I will go and read. I finished Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. This is way more dark than I thought it would be, so if you're going to read this, please look up trigger warnings and protect yourself. This follows Georgina, who is currently in prison for a crime you don't know if she committed or not. And it follows dual timelines in the past when the crime happened and present day. It also follows dual POV, Georgina, and her best friend Kaser, who was her best friend when she was younger, and now the cop that arrested her for the crime. This story is interesting. It's got some points that really stick out in the overall narrative. It's not for everyone. It is really dark and kind of traumatic because there's a lot. I actually think this edges more into horror, like realistic horror for me, just because there's a certain thing that happens multiple times and it's like, damn, that's a lot. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Not for everyone. I had a good time with it, and this was 305 pages. I managed to read this in 6 hours. I averaged 51 pages an hour. I will leave a breakdown of the pages I read every hour on screen. This is fairly dense text, like it's really small text and fairly dense at the same time, so I'm quite impressed that I managed to read this in 6 hours. And yeah, so I read this and then I was planning on checking in, but I didn't feel like it yesterday because I had a pretty busy day yesterday. So I then just read an hour extra before bed. But the thing is I finished this at a really awkward time because it didn't take bang on 6 hours. It took 5 hours and 50 minutes. So I then had to add on 10 minutes to my next hour so that it breaks like even on this scale. You'll see it on screen. It'll make more sense than I do. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, gave it 4 stars, and I read it in 5 hours and 50 minutes. So I was at 305 pages read at the 5 hour 50 mark. And then last night before I went to bed, I read for an hour and 10 minutes just so that I could reset the timer to every hour. But I did start Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So for the first hour, I got through 74 pages, and then the 10 minutes on top of that took me to 84 or 86. Again, the numbers will be on screen. I should probably move this to the side so the numbers can stay here. But yeah, so if I can average 74 pages an hour, this is a 320 page book, I can read this in like 4.5 hours. I've already read for an hour and 10 minutes, so I should be able to complete this in 3 hours and 20 minutes, which is interesting. The reason is though, is because the font is just so large in this book compared to Jar of Hearts. So I'm just flying through it. Also, this is a story that I'm so excited about because this is the sequel to It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So in this video, there will be spoilers for It Ends With Us, but I will try not to spoil this too much. And if I do, I will put spoiler warnings on the screen. I'm loving this so far. I am only 86 pages in, so not that far. We have re-met Lily as she is now a divorced woman, a single mum and a business owner. She then runs into Atlas, who asks her if she's ready for something to start, which it picks up right where It Ends With Us leaves off, which is really nice. It doesn't feel like time has passed, but it also does because it's different. It's different because obviously she's now a single mum, she's divorced, and Atlas is back in her life. And can I just say, I absolutely adore Atlas. I just think he's so precious. So in this so far, they have spoken and Lily's trying to come to terms with if she wants to pursue this because it's going to complicate her life, because Ryle, the abusive prick that he is still in her life because of their daughter, and she doesn't want to complicate things for her or her daughter. But Atlas is the one person that Ryle would hate for Lily to be with. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. There's also like a little mystery element going on, and I think Atlas is great. There's this scene, so he has a colleague called Brad, and Brad has a son, and Atlas goes to him when he wants advice, and it's like a therapist talk. And Theo also talks to Atlas, not very much, but he does open up to him. Theo is his name, and he's gay, and Atlas is just like, do you have like interest in a girl? And Theo kind of looks like down, and Atlas is like, or a boy, like, and then he's just like, who is he? Like, your dad's cool. But like, it's just, he's just so understanding and so patient and so kind, and like, he is patient with Lily as Lily's trying to figure out her shit and how to go about living her life with the complications of having Ryle still in her life. And he's just great, and I just want an Atlas of my own. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I should be able to finish this in 3 hours and 20 minutes. So I'm hoping to finish this today, which might be a push, but that's okay. Like, we can try. If I fail, I'm still gonna have pages read, so that's the main thing. So I will come back in and check in once I've read more of this, and hopefully I will just love this as much as the first one. I finished It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I have a lot of thoughts. I adored this book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved every second of reading this, and I've read some reviews, and I think I'm in the minority with loving this book as much as I did. And I understand that Colleen Hoover is not for everyone. I understand why some people think this book was unnecessary. But for me personally, this book was not unnecessary. This book was not romance and angst and things that were expected of Colleen Hoover. This book was growth and setting boundaries and sticking up for yourself. In this, I found a character in Lily that I so rooted for and so fell for. I think this book will hit people differently, and if you've never experienced anything that happens in this book, I can understand why it would feel pointless. But to me, this wasn't pointless. To me, watching Lily grow and put herself and her daughter first and go after love after having a shit go of it the first time and really go after what she wants was strong. She was strong in this book. I loved her as a character. I loved the relationship between her and Atlas. And I read in a review that Atlas is doing the bare minimum, and it's like he's like this god, but it's not that for me. For me, yes, Atlas is doing what a partner should do, what someone you love should do, but because it is put against Ryle's badness, he looks like the white and shining armor. All the things he does look like they're big deals, because to Lily, they are big deals. To Lily, she's not experienced this, so it is a big deal to her, even though it's not a big deal to everyone. Lily's just came out a really abusive relationship and is now trying to figure out how to have a civil partnership with the father of her child. There is people that have situations like this, that have been in abusive relationships and have to come out and be civil with their co-parent, someone that has had a horrible relationship with them. And it's not all black and white, because sometimes things don't happen the way they're meant to. I read a review that says Ryle should be in jail, which he should be held accountable for what he did, but sometimes that's not realistic. There is abusers out there that get away with it and then have to co-parent with their abuser, and it's realistic in a way that's heartbreaking. And I feel like this was necessary, because Lily got to heal and grow and find love in places that are meaningful in Atlas. And Atlas, even though, yes, he's doing what a normal partner should do, it just looks so much better because Ryle's so bad. And this book just resonated with me so hard. I loved this. I loved that Lily got the chance to be with someone that loves her, that appreciates her, that respects her. I love that Emerson's gonna have a place to grow up that's full and surrounded by love and people that support and respect her. I love that Lily had Marshall and Alyssa to be there as a support system. And everything in this book just made me want to cry. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I cried at this book twice, maybe 3 times. I understand why it's not for everyone. I understand if you don't like this book, and I understand if you think it's pointless. But for me, it just wasn't pointless. For me, it was everything. It was growth and love and overcoming pain and finding yourself again after you've been so beaten down by life, by love, by a partner. Like, this book just touched my fucking soul, and I loved it. And I'm gonna read just a couple of passages that really stuck out to me. I don't know what else to say. Like, I just absolutely adored this book. This part is just, it just hits you in a way that I don't think you would feel the same impact if you've never been or experienced anything in your life or surrounding your life. But this for me just hit. And it says, how do people leave these cycles when they don't have the resources I had or the support from their friends and family? How do they possibly stay strong enough every second of the day? I feel like all it takes is one weak, insecure moment in the presence of your ex to convince yourself you made the wrong decision. Anyone who has ever left a manipulative, abusive spouse and somehow stayed that course deserves a medal, a statue, a frickin' superhero movie. Society has obviously been worshipping the wrong heroes this whole time, because I'm convinced it takes less strength to pick up a building than it does to permanently leave an abusive situation. I mean, I agree. I think it's glossed over, but the people that do end up leaving abusive situations are the real heroes. It takes so much strength to do something like that, and I feel for Lily so hard. This passage is because Lily has a heart tattoo on her shoulder where Atlas used to kiss when they were younger. This then turned into a horrible moment when Ryle tried to bite that tattoo off her body, and now Atlas is found out about it and he's trying to like process this information. And he says, I press my lips to her tattoo, determined to make sure she remembers the good parts of us and all the future kisses I'm going to give her in this spot. If it takes 1,000,000 kisses for her not to think about the scars that surround her heart tattoo, then I'll kiss her there 1,000,001 times. I mean, this is love. This is what love should be. And I think because Atlas is doing what should be done in a relationship, it makes it seem like it's such a big deal. And yeah, okay, in normal life, it's not that big a deal. That's what love is. But in this aspect of Lily just coming out abusive relationship, this is a big deal to Lily. This is a big deal to the situation that they're in, because this is so, it's night and day from her relationship with Ryle. And that's a huge thing for someone coming out of an abusive relationship. This is Lily speaking about Ryle, and this hurt me. Ryle is clinging to me like I can make this better, and at one point I thought I could. He's a broken man. But he isn't broken because of me. He was broken before we met. Sometimes people think they love a broken person enough, they can be what finally repairs them. But the problem with that is the other person just ends up broken too. Fuck. I didn't plan to get so emotional as speaking about this book, but I'm just going to wrap up my thoughts here, because if not, I'm going to cry more. I absolutely loved this book. I think it was necessary. I love that Lily and Atlas got a happy ending. I love that other characters were involved. I loved Theo. He was a brilliant character to add into the story. I love that we got Josh, who is like a new beginning for Atlas in a family aspect that I just think is amazing. And I think this maybe is being received wrong, because it's not like an angsty, romantic, like all out passion book that Colleen Hoover writes. It's more of a realistic look into the after effects of coming out an abusive relationship and moving on with your life. And for that, I am so grateful for this book. I am so grateful that Lily and Atlas got their happy ending. I understand if you don't like this, but do appreciate that I do love this, and everyone's entitled to their own thoughts and opinions. And I believe that certain people that's had certain experiences in their life will really relate to this book, and that's just my thoughts. I never thought I would be so dang emotional, but here I am. It is okay. It's fine. It's fine. So, in the terms of how quickly I read this book, I did manage to read this in 4 hours and 10 minutes. So actually 20 minutes faster than what I had gauged, because I averaged 74 pages an hour, and I think the ending went quicker because I was invested and wanted to know what happened. So I managed to finish this 320 page book in 4 hours and 10 minutes, which brings my total to 10 hours and 10 minutes. So the next time I check in will be a 50-minute start to the next book, but that's okay. I'm going to leave breakdowns on the screen so it all makes sense. I am currently at 625 pages read at the 10-hour, 10-minute mark. So I'm pretty chuffed with that. I don't know what I'm going to pick up next. I need to go have a look at my shelves and see what is speaking to me. It's going to be a fantasy, so I can see different genres. It's going to be a fantasy, so I can see how I go with different genres. But yeah, I love this book, and I will be back once I have picked my next read, and hopefully I can read for the 50 minutes, kind of gauge how long it's going to take me to read that next book. But until then, I will go read. I ended up starting The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean, and this is the lovely Illumicrate edition, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I just love this. This is the naked hardback. It's so beautiful. So I'm gonna have to hold this here because I'm now having to use two sides of the screen to break down my page numbers. But this book's been a little all over the place, so I had to start with a 50-minute reading session, which got me like 32 pages. And then after that, I like consistently got over 40 for the next 2 hours of reading this book. And then I would drop down to like 39. So I don't know, like it'll be on screen so you can see the breakdown, but I don't know what my average is for this book. And I'm gonna say it's 40 pages an hour just to like average out the higher and lower numbers. I'm now at hour 14, I think. It will be on screen if I'm wrong. But I went into this book not knowing anything. I got this from Illumicrate, and I tend to read the synopsis between Illumicrate and Fairy Loot and decide which one I want per month, because I don't need 2 books a month. So unless it's something like 2 books I really want, I tend to choose between the two. And I chose Book Eaters for the month of September. And I read the synopsis of this book in August. So it wasn't really even a synopsis. It was just like a short part about the book. So I didn't actually know what this book was about, apart from people eat books. And I did not know that it was fantasy horror. So for the first 50 pages of reading this, I was so damn confused. I was like, this is not the fantasy escape that I wanted it to be. And then I looked on Goodreads, realised that it's meant to be horror. And then I started vibing with this book when I realised that what it was doing correctly, and I was just misinterpreting what this book was meant to be, which is totally my fault, none of the book's fault. So for the first 50 pages, I was like, damn, this fantasy world shit. And then after I realised it was horror, I was like, this fantasy world is good because it's meant to be horrific. So I had a roller coaster for the first little while. I'm now on page 177, and I can say I am really enjoying it now that I know that it's meant to be as horrific as it is. This story follows Devon, who is a book eater. She is grown up on fairy tales and is kind of peddled this life of she is a princess, but in reality she is just being used, like all the women are in the book eater families, to conceive, to have more book eaters. Now she is on the run with her child Kai, who is a mind eater, and she is looking for ways to help him and help herself. This book is like really dark. It has a lot of themes in it that just are so infuriating, and I like that because it's meant to be horror. If this was meant to be a fantasy book like I thought, then that probably wouldn't have been a good fantasy world to begin with. But because it's fantasy horror, which is a genre I've never read from before, it does what it's meant to do so well. And I appreciate it's told in dual timelines. It's told in the present day where Devon is on the run with her son Kai, who's a mind eater. And then it follows past Devon, who is growing up being fed fairy tales and getting married off and having to give birth to children that she can not stay with, which is just, it's so emotional and it's so horrific, like what the women in the book eater species are. And I'm just like, dang, this is good for a horror. And I really appreciate the flashbacks and the dual timelines. I think it blends everything together so well, and like there's a mystery going through it that you don't know about. But yeah, I am really enjoying this. I am going to go into a little bit of spoilers just because I feel like I need to. So if you don't want to be spoiled, wait until the spoiler warning is off the screen. I am infuriated with the way that the women are treated in this book. Like, I understand now, because it's a horror, they're meant to be treated this way. It's meant to be horrific. It's meant to scare the shit out of you. And the women in the book eater families essentially get raised as princesses. Then they get married off to their first marriage, have a baby, get to raise that baby for 3 years, and then have to go away from the baby and remarry and have another baby and do the same thing. They're never allowed to stay in the same manner as their children. This is horrific in the way that they just get torn apart. Like literally, the marriages are often, the babies are often conceived down to SA, which is off page, which I appreciate. And then the mother has to give birth to this baby, fall in love with this baby, and then nurse it and be there for it for 3 years, and then gets torn away from their own child. And I'm like, damn, that's some dark shit. And I feel so sorry for all the women. And then when you can no longer conceive and can no longer marry off, you become like a housemaid. So you're only special if your internal organs are working the way that they're meant to. It's so infuriating. And like the husbands in this, like, are just gross. Like, I don't like them. They anger me. I have tabs in this. The blue tabs are like things that I want to remember, things that I like. The orange tabs are things that piss me off, and the pink tabs are quotes. And like just instantly, like the orange tabs, we have Devon and her first marriage, and she's given first to her first child Salem, and Luton is her husband, and he says, then give her a sodden injection for Christ's sakes. If I have to sit through another minute of this howling, I will lose my bloody sanity. It's supposed to be Christmas Eve. I want some peace. I will slap a bitch, okay? This woman is doing something you can't even imagine, and all you care about is quiet. I finished The Book Eaters by Sonia Dean, and I'm giving this a 4 stars. So I was unsure of how to rate this. I was gonna rate it 4.5, but I was like, I don't know, there was just something missing for me. I feel like the ending kind of slowed down, because in the end you still got the like past timeline meeting up with the present day timeline, and I just wish that the ending was all present day and it's like bang bang bang, all the action happening at once. But apart from that, this book really surprised me. I can safely say I've never read anything like this, and I've never read any fantasy horror, I don't think. And I'm glad this was my first foray into this genre, because even though I had like a weird experience for the first 50 pages thinking that this was fantasy, once I realised that it was fantasy horror and that it was doing what it was meant to be doing, I really enjoyed this. The world was built up so well in the end. I do wish we got a bit more, like, that's my dog snoring her head off. I do wish we got more, like, I do wish we got more of a look into the book eaters, how they're made, how they become, like, how, like, what makes a book eater and a mind eater. Like, I wish we got more into the mythology of this species and not just tidbits here and there. And again, the ending, I wish that was more action-packed instead of taking me out the story a little bit. But apart from that, I really enjoyed everything in this book. Like, it took me by surprise. It's something I've never read before, and I would definitely pick up more from this author. And I'm so glad I have this edition, because once you read this book, this edition takes on so much more meaning. Like, they have the breakfast table set out with books, and like the all the things made up are actual like food. And then you have, this is Devon and Kai, and she's throwing away like a crown for like a princess, a tiara. And like, I really love this edition now that I've read this book and know more about it. So yeah, 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I need to maybe invest in some more fantasy horror books, that hybrid genre, and see if I can find more books that I like in this genre. So this book took me bang on 7 hours to read. Like, it's quicker than I thought it would be, and I find it so interesting. So I'm going to hold it down here so I can break it down on screen for you. But I find it so interesting because this is only 10 pages shorter than A Jar of Hearts, but it has like similar font, like smallness, and I feel like I thought it would have took me longer to read this than it actually did, because it only took me an hour extra. And considering it's fantasy horror, I thought it would have took way longer. So I am very happy that I've read this now. I'm now on hour 17, which means I still have 8 hours left to read, which is exciting because I've already read 3 books for this like experiment, and I'm like, if I could read 24 hours every week, I could complete conceivably 4 to 5 books. Well, 4 short books and then like 3 longer books a week, which is a lot. And I'm like, if anything, this experiment's made me feel like I can, I'm gonna put this down. If anything, this experience has made me feel like I can now like read more. Like, I think I undervalued how much I can actually read in certain time periods. And I always think when I break down my TBR, like 30 pages a day every day for a month is so much. But I'm like, I've managed to do that this week. And even though I haven't been working this past week, if I broke it down and didn't read 24 hours in a week, but if I did, it would be 3.5 hours a day. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's not hugely achievable, but like, if I can read for an hour every day, then I could conceivably read a lot more than I think I can. So if anything, this experiment has given me renewed want to try more experiments to see how I can fit reading into a schedule that suits me. So maybe after this 24-hour experiment, I'll do like reading an hour every day or something for a week to see if I like that. The only downside about that is sometimes I feel like if I read for an hour, I'm going to want to read longer. But who knows? Or maybe like 100 pages a day or something. But it opens so many new doors for new challenges to see if I can figure out a way to fit reading into my schedule without stress or without having to really think about it, and be able to like stay consistent. Because I do this thing where I go hard for reading and then I either burn out or I get like really wrapped up in other things and I take a break, which of course is what you want to do because it's fun, it's enjoyable. But like, I think if I had like a set schedule, would be easier for me to plan videos. So I've just rambled for a long time, and my dog is not happy because she's snoring away, and I'm talking through her sleep. So I think my next plan is to read a YA book, because I've read a thriller, a romance, and a fantasy horror, but they've all been adult. So I think my next plan is to read something YA and see if I read YA faster or slower than adult. I think it will be faster, but you never know, and I will have to go figure out which YA book I want to pick, and I will come back once I have decided and give you my thoughts on it when I have read some of it. And I'm excited and really happy that I enjoyed this book as much as I did. Highly recommend if you have not already read. I decided to pick up I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I am 194 pages through. There will be a breakdown on screen of my numbers. I believe I can read 62 pages of this an hour roughly. Like, my numbers are all over the board with this and the Book Eaters. I feel like for the first two books I was getting like really consistent numbers, and I don't know if it's because the last two books I've been a little more distracted while reading, so the numbers are a bit messy, but there will be a breakdown on the screen of all of the hours that I have read so far. I'm officially on hour 19, so I have 6 hours left. I figured that if I average 62 pages with this book an hour, I could probably read it in the next 3 hours, which is fine. It means that I will still have like 3 hours left to start another book, even though I won't be able to finish it in this vlog. It's all about the numbers in this vlog, essentially. So in this, we follow Chloe Green, who is a straight-A student and has been competing with Shara Wheeler since she arrived at Willow Grove Christian Academy. And then Shara goes missing and no one knows where she goes. There's rumours abound, and Chloe, being Chloe, needs to understand why she's disappeared. Because Shara not only kissed Chloe, she kissed Rory, her neighbour, and then obviously her boyfriend Smith. And she's been leaving like notes on her stationery to like help them track her down. The thing is I don't know how much I'm enjoying this book. So I enjoy the characters in this book and the development of the characters. I enjoy the diverseness of every character in here, and they feel like real characters. They're very entertaining, and I really enjoy that part of the story. But for me, the mystery's weak. Like, Shara Wheeler is not the nicest person. She's been like blackmailing her friends and hiding some secrets, and I'm just like, I don't even care where she is. Like, I just want to be in Chloe's friend group, and with Smith and Rory now involved, I want them to be in the friend group, and I actually like the characters that we're following. I don't care about the mystery though. The mystery is pretty weak for me in this, and it was kind of interesting coming from adult books to this young adult book, because I have gotten so used to, I've been reading a lot more adult lately, and I've gotten so used to characters making semi-decent decisions that when I went back into this, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot YA characters don't make adult decisions because it's not adult books. And like, Chloe's like blowing off her best friend Georgina when Georgina needs them, and I'm like, can you please just take 5 seconds out from like being obsessed with Shara Wheeler and talk to your friend? Like, in an adult book, I feel like she would have spoke to Georgina and then went back to finding Shara, whereas in this, she just keeps blowing off her friends and blowing off her best friend, and I'm just like, can you please stop? Because like, your friend group is amazing, appreciate them, and like, Shara's not amazing, so like, why are you like being this way to your friends when they should be your priority over this girl that kissed you and bailed and is now like stirring the pot? But it's YA. What do you expect? It's YA. I will say it's entertaining, and I am enjoying the story other than the mystery. The mystery is weak sauce, but everything else is really good, and I do enjoy the characters. There is pop culture references in this. I think Casey McQuiston done pop culture references in One Last Stop, and it does date a book. Pop culture references don't bother me, so to speak. Um, there is one in here that's a Lord of the Rings one that I found pretty funny, but I do feel like it does date a book, and unfortunately, because this is YA and it's got pop culture references, it may date this book, which I think is doing a disservice to the book. But I mean, it's fine because a lot of people are going to read this now and get the references. But yeah, I am enjoying it enough. So I don't know, I'm struggling. Like, I think so far I would be giving it a 3 stars because I don't like the mystery. I don't like the way she's treating her friends. I really don't care about Shadow Wheeler as a character, and she's like the main fucking character. Even though she's not the main character, she is a main character. And all I care about is the friends and the people that we've been introduced to. I care more about them and their personal stories than I do about the overall plot line in this book. Now, this could change because, I mean, it could change because if Shadow Wheeler comes out and is like, it's a good reveal, then that would be interesting. But I just don't see how this is going to be a good reveal because you've got like a privileged girl who's struggling with some things, ends up being a bitch to her friends, kisses a couple of people, and then like just fucks off. And then like, how does she come back from that? Because she can't come back and be like, her and Chloe can't like be in a relationship when she comes back, because I'm like gonna be like, why? You know? So I don't know. I guess I will have to read and find out what actually happens, and if Shadow Wheeler is like as big as an attention seeker as I think she is. But yeah, it's fine. I really enjoy the diverseness of the book. I really enjoy the characters, but the mystery and the overall plot is weak. So I guess I will come back when I have finished this, hopefully in 3 hours, and tell you my overall thoughts. Hopefully they'll change as the book goes along, but I don't know. I'm gonna go have to read and see. I would get used to seeing this dressing gown a lot because it's now winter and I live in this beautiful oversized dressing gown. I finished I Kiss Shadow Wheeler and I am conflicted about this book because I enjoyed the diverseness, I enjoyed the queer rep, I enjoyed most of the characters, but my issue is I didn't root for the main romance. The mystery plot that you are fed in the synopsis was weak. And there was this side romance that I wish was the main romance in this. Like, there was this side romance that I just wanted a whole book about, and it would have been, for me, more entertaining than this. And I also think, because I've been reading a lot of adult books lately, my reading's kind of shifted more into adult reading, that this YA book kind of infuriated me in places because the characters made decisions that a young person would make, not an older person. So like, some of the things that happened surrounding Chloe, the main character, just had me like stressed. Like, I was physically stressed reading this because I was like, please just make this easy on yourself and talk to your friends. But yeah, like, I feel like that's more of a me issue than a book issue. This book is good. It's got a great queer rep. It has really nice characters, and it does have a very well built up setting. But I just think the mystery plot didn't really need to be in there, and the main romance just didn't do much for me, but the side romance did. So yeah, it was fine. I struggled with this one, rating this one, because I was gonna give it 4 stars, but that doesn't feel right to me because, again, there was issues I had with this book. So I think I'm settled on a 3.5. It wasn't middle of the road meh, it was just better than that, but it wasn't quite like great 4-star read. But I will say that if you want really good queer rep and really good characters with a side romance, this is your book. You might like the main romance, I just didn't feel the vibes. So anyways, I averaged about 67 pages an hour, There was higher and lower. I think it just depends how distracted I get, but it will be on screen. So I managed to read this book in 6 hours and 15 minutes, which means I only have 2 hours and 45 minutes left to read for this vlog. And I don't know if I have a book that I would be able to finish in that time, so I might just have to start something and leave you hanging on my thoughts. Who knows? But I will look for something to see if there's something I can maybe fit in 2 hours and 45 minutes. But this book was alright. I gave it a 3.5 stars. The page breakdown will be on screen, and we are now on to hour 22 and 15 minutes. So I will come back once I have picked what I'm going to read next, and then we can wrap this whole vlog up, and I will tell you what I managed to achieve with reading for 24 hours straight. I decided to pick up Before by Hannah Todd. You might be wondering why I decided to pick this up. And I myself am wondering the same fucking thing. Because I didn't like the After series, but I read them. Well, I bought all 5 books because I thought I was going to like them. But then I didn't. And the reason I continued is because I needed audiobooks while I was working. And these were the right length, and I already own them, so it knocked off some of my physical TBR without having to actually read them with my eyes. So yeah, I have 1 book left. I have this book, and I am challenging myself to read the last books in series or continue with series before the end of the year. So I thought this would be a good choice, so I can knock this off my shelves and then unhaul it, because that is a thing I want to do. But I don't know, I don't like this, and it's hindering my ability to finish out this vlog, because I don't want to pick this up, but I want to complete the series because I have 1 dang book left. And this book is like Hardin's point of view, and it's before he met Tessa, during, and after he met Tessa. And I just hate Hardin as a character. I feel like this story was meant to be his redemption, which he doesn't deserve redemption, but it's making me hate him more. Like, you're getting all the girls he's hurt in the past, they have like a little passage in this, and I'm like, yeah, like, that makes me hate you more. I don't care how much you've changed. You've done horrible things to these girls, and now you're like, I love Tessa. If you loved Tessa, you wouldn't put her through half the shit that you did. So yeah, I'm not having a great time, but I'm not having the worst time, because I'm angry reading it at this point, because I just don't like Hardin, and I don't know why I'm so adamant to finish the series, because maybe it's because I own them and I have read the other books in it, even though all of the books have been a 1, 2, and 1 3-star, only because the book actually had plot instead of just shit. They're not enjoyable books for me, but I enjoyed the feeling I get reading them, which is so weird, because even though these are not enjoyable books in rating sense, when I read them, I get like so many thoughts, and I just want to tell everyone about them, just so that I can have a little rant about them, or say like what I don't like about them, which is a really weird feeling that I've never felt before. This book series invokes something in me that I didn't know that was there. So yeah, I don't know how I'm feeling about this book. It's not going to be a favourite book. It is just to kind of finish off this series so I can unhaul it and get a sense of completion. But yeah, it's fine. It's average. I still hate Hardin. Tessa, I wish just had a bit more of a backbone. The only person likable in this whole series is Landon, because he's pretty chill. But yeah, I am currently 22.5 hours in, and I've read 76 pages of this. So I literally only have an hour and a half left, and I think I can do that today with this book, and just push my way through the last hour and a half so that I can close out this video. But this book will be reoccurring, because I plan on doing a vlog that is completing or finishing series. So if you want my full thoughts, or rant if you may, after I finish this, subscribe, hit the bell, because there will be a video out of me giving my full spoiler thoughts of this in the future. So yeah, I will put a breakdown of the pages on screen. I think for the first 45 minutes, I think I got about 50-ish pages read, and I didn't calculate for the last half an hour because I'll do it on an hour basis. So yeah, I'm gonna try and read the rest of this today and come in and tell you my final thoughts of where I get up to and close out this vlog and tell you how I felt about this whole experiment. But until then, I have to go read some Hardin. Wish me luck. I finished Before by Anna Todd. Finally, this book was a moment, and I gave it 1 star. So I'm not going to count the last half of this book just because it took me over the 24 hours, but I will say that if you want my full spoiler thoughts on this series, on this book, I will be taking out a series vlog where I continue or complete series before the end of the year. So if you are interested in that, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when that comes out. And yeah, I gave this 1 star. I didn't like it. I think all the characters in here are pretty fucking shitty. I didn't like one of the characters, and I feel like the whole premise of having before, during, and after was kind of stupid, because the before part, we didn't even get like full stories from people that would have been more interesting than the during. I think if you took the during part out and just had it before and after, this book would have potentially been better. We would have seen the before of characters that we don't know much about, of their past, and we would have seen the after that you don't really get much of in the last book. So I don't know, I felt like the majority of this book was kind of pointless, and it didn't really need to be written, because it kind of tried to redeem characters that had done really shitty things. I will say it was interesting seeing Steph's point of view, because in the After series, for like the first 2 books, you think that she's a genuine friend to Tessa, but in this, it's made very clear that she is a grade A bitch, a horrible human being. And I did enjoy seeing like the glimpses back to her past, because I think because of what happens in the 3rd book in the After series, if you know, you know, like I think seeing Steph's past would have made more of a fully developed storyline, and it would make the events in After We Fell make more sense, even though it's nonsensical what happens. So yeah, I don't know, this book was just meh. Like, it was a 1 star, it wasn't that great, I hate all the characters, I'm glad I'm finished this series. The only reason I persevered with it is because I want to watch the films having read the original content, because I actually do enjoy the films. They're fun for an entertaining time. And now I can continue on with the films without having to read any more of the books, which feels fantastic. So I will have on the screen a breakdown of my pages per hour. Even though I've already finished this, I'm only going to go up to hour 24 because that's the whole point of this vlog. Again, my thoughts will be coming on this full spoiler very soon. I have some notes here. So I firstly read Jar of Hearts, and this was 305 pages, and I gave it 4 stars, and it took me 5 hours and 50 minutes to complete. Then I read It Starts With Us, and this was 352 pages. I gave it 5 star. Hint, hint, this is going to be on my best books of the year list, coming soon for Bookmas. Can't believe we're already almost in December. It's insane. This took me 4 hours and 10 minutes to complete. I then read Book Eaters, which was 295 pages. I gave this 4 stars. It took me 6 hours and 50 minutes to complete. I then read I Kissed Shara Wheeler, which was 356 pages. This was a little disappointing. I gave it a 3.5 star. Took me 5 hours and 25 minutes to read. And then finally, I managed to read half of Before. This is 336 pages. I read 177 pages during the 24 hours. I ended up giving it a 1 star, which happened after the 24 hours. And this half of this book took me 2 hours and 55 minutes to read. So in total, I read 4.5 books and 1,485 pages. I completed the 24 hours over 11 days, which I wanted to do it quicker, but I recently just started a new job, and if you don't know, I used to work night shift, and I've went from working at 10 o'clock at night to now working at 6 o'clock in the morning. So there is a big difference in my routine now. I have a completely different job, completely different time and schedule. So the last, I would say, 5 days got a little busier than I had intended it to be. So it took me a little bit longer to complete the 24 hours. I could have done it in a shorter period of time, but you got to get that money. So I had to work, and this is the thing. It's interesting still because I normally average in a month where I just read and vibe out, I normally manage about a book a week. So it's 4 to 5 books in a month. But I've actually managed to complete my normal quota that I would normally read over a month in 11 days. So even though it took me longer than I wanted it to or had expected it to, I still read so much more than I normally do by like 2.5 books, or even 2 books, say. 2 books, I read 2 books more than what I would normally read in this 11 days. So I had so much fun with this vlog. I actually think this is the longest video I've had on my channel, and I just had a good time reading these books and challenging myself to read for 24 hours. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and what your ratings were. Remember to stay safe, happy and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Pick it up from the top, hit restart. So far it's been